Kokoro Connect is a series I've been aware of since 2013 when I got into anime. I never watched it, but the aesthetic of the anime stood out to me, but not nearly as much as the name. Kokoro Connect always felt to me like the perfect title. It's short, memorable, gets the general vibe and idea of the story across. The name Kokoro Connect stuck with me ever since I first heard it. I would see the manga at Barnes & Noble and would think, yeah, I know you. I thought about getting it, but never did. For some reason, I knew it was based on a novel series. I don't remember how I learned it. It may have just been an assumption that was confirmed at some unknown point in time. In short, Kokoro Connect has been following me for 6 years, and it was inevitable that I experience it in one way or another. I wasn't going to watch the anime because it didn't cover the whole story, and also apparently has some kind of controversy with voice actors. I looked into it once a few years ago, and all I remember is thinking that if I were to watch the anime, I would only think about the controversy, or at the very least, that there was some drama stirred up about these voices I would be hearing. I do not remember the details of the controversy, and honestly wish to not remember them, but the point is, I knew that I would be uncomfortable watching the anime, but reading the manga felt cheap. I don't know why, but even now I hold some bias against manga adaptations of light novels. Is it because they always don't finish the story, but don't even give the novels the popularity boost that the anime does? Maybe. I was stuck with no real way to experience Kokoro Connect that I felt would give me the whole shebang. Time went on, seasons passed. I would occasionally remember Kokoro Connect like the name of some lost friend from way back who I probably should have hung out with more. And then, years later, I'm in the kitchen of my house watching light novel license announcements roll in. And like a lightning strike, the news dropped that J Novel Club would be publishing Kokoro Connect's original novels in English. And for some reason I didn't know, I felt a grandiose amount of joy. I couldn't name one character from the thing, but I sure as hell felt some strange excitement. Perhaps this excitement was a premonition. A sign that my heart-to-heart with Kokoro Connect would be something I wouldn't forget. Kokoro Connect is a light novel series by Sadanatsu Anda. In Japan, it was published by Famitsu Bunko, the same publisher as works like Book Girl. As previously stated, J Novel Club publishes the series in English. Currently, it is ebook only, and it seems that unless a bunch of people suddenly start buying the ebooks, it will stay ebook only. This is probably why it took me so long to start reading it. Volume 1, the one I am talking about today, is titled Hito Random, read literally as Random People. Told in third person, mostly following a male high school student named Taichi, Hito Random is a body swap story. In Taichi's club, the Culture Research Club, there's Taichi, but also 4 others. Inaba is a snarky girl that keeps the rest of the club in line. Nagase is the carefree jokester of the group. Aoki is cool-headed and the only boy in the club other than Taichi. And finally, Kiriyama is easily startled but can deliver a mean blow to anyone's face. They all have fun in their nonsensical club, until one day they start swapping bodies. They soon learn that they are at the mercy of an extra-dimensional, I assume, being known as Heartseed, who is making all of them randomly swap bodies for some mysterious reason. Why is Heartseed doing this, and will the club stay together even through the body swap? Even if secrets come out? Kokoro Connect offers what I personally feel to be a bigger story made up of smaller episodes. Each chapter, especially in the second half, feels like its own smaller story. The story begins with body swapping getting established, and from there we get hijinks, comedy, and some good setup for later parts until the halfway mark, where we notice a dramatic shift, pun fully intended. There's a good section around a quarter of the way through the book that gives a real good sample of what Kokoro Connect is truly capable of. It's notable and engaging. That scene in particular was one where I was on the edge of my seat. It comes at a really good time, because the first half of the book is mostly body swap comedy, which I find borderline disturbing. The choice to include this scene at this precise point gives the reader the hint of real drama that will come into play later. I needed that after jokes about using the bathroom in somebody else's body. Actually, maybe those came after this scene. I honestly kinda forget the chronology until the second half. But really, there's something about making a joke out of using another person's body that just sets off a giant red flag for me, and I have to say I don't find jokes about each other's bodies, and especially sexual harassment, to be comfortable subjects. though there are only few moments in Hito Random I would consider to be straight up sexual harassment humor. That being said, on my opinions on these jokes, I do find the instances where the situation is out of the character's control to not be too uncomfortable since it isn't anyone's fault. The same goes for when a character is using something that could be seen as sexual harassment to help another person, which I never thought I'd say, but here we are. Chapter 8's infamous scene is a great example of this. I actually knew about this scene beforehand. It was one of the reasons I was interested in reading Kokoro Connect now of all times. For some reason, a bunch of people I follow both on Twitter and Instagram were watching the Kokoro Connect anime recently, and they posted screenshots of this scene because it's just that ridiculous. This is a spoiler-free review, and I consider that scene to be a spoiler, so I'm only hinting about it vaguely. But I mean, that seemed so bizarre out of context that I just had to know the full context. The thing is still totally shocking in context. I was in my university's cafeteria when I hit the scene unexpectedly, and I'm sure I got weird looks because I can't hold back facial reactions to books for some reason. I was doubled over with a baffled expression beginning of my stage performance days. But the intent and reason why it was done made sense. It was a gamble to help Inaba, and Taichi took it even though the embarrassing build-up to it happening is downright painful. You can see my reaction to it on my Twitter at MaturePurple. The result from this is all the more gratifying, and by God did it give me a pairing to root for. Admittedly, maybe I shouldn't root for a pairing in a series that has ended, but I don't know who he ends up with, and I will root for Inaba forever, even if she loses, because I am salty and also lonely. Putting my personal issues aside, the difference between me being uncomfortable and me going ballistic for best girl lies in how the shit's used. If it is used solely as a throwaway joke at the expense of embarrassing another character, I get uncomfortable, but when it is used to help someone or isn't the fault of a character, I am infinitely more okay with it. I am grateful to say that while Hito Random does use this humor sometimes, it does not use it nearly enough to make me drop it. Like I said, the placement of that scene that gives you a taste of things to come is something that Kokoro Connect really benefited from. Kokoro Connect is also not solely a comedy series, so it has other things to do besides potentially making me feel uncomfortable. It has some good old-fashioned soap opera drama to get down to. Not only this, Kokoro Connect actually addresses realistic discomfort from the body swap, which may not be super new, but I felt as though it was done better than the admittedly very few other body swap series I've seen. Hito Random is one of 3 body swap stories I actually like, the other 2 being Your Name, for obvious reasons, and Inside Mari, which also addresses horrors of body swapping in a more bleak way, though there is some technicality there. Needless to say, I gravitate towards stories that agree with my sentiment that body swapping is more of a horror concept than a comedy concept. Hito Random certainly has its moments with both sides, but it adds a twist. It actually goes ahead and argues the positives of body swapping. I do not think I have seen a series convince me of something like this before. I still see body swapping as a scary concept, but at the end of the day, good can come from it if used in the right ways, and the sole reason I think this is because of this book. Body swapping isn't real as far as I know, so maybe our opinions on it do not matter all too much, but I appreciate how Hito Random had enough power to convince me of something. It shows how convincing the writing is, and I can certainly see why Kokoro Connect is liked by a lot of the people who experience it. Now, I may have stated that Kokoro Connect feels like a bunch of smaller stories adding up to one big story, but I did not mean it in the sense that something about Kokoro Connect's emotional impact is far lesser. I found myself gasping at times and screaming on Twitter at other times. Kokoro Connect has this sort of knack for taking problems or issues that seem big, but show that in the end the problem wasn't exactly what it seemed. And as far as I can tell at the moment, that was a big theme of Hito Random. Kokoro Connect says that we are all insignificant people dealing with our own insignificant problems. When you do not take into account how small you are compared to the world around you, your issues seem so much bigger than they actually are. But at the same time, Kokoro Connect still pushes the idea that you still must face your problems. And with these problems seeming so much smaller after a good look, Kokoro Connect truly sets up a very hopeful message. Of course, Kokoro Connect balances this out with darkness leading into the message. Chapter 9 was terrifying, but also did not give mood whiplash. It's in Chapter 9 where you realize just how much you've come to like the characters, even though you've only read about 200 pages. A couple of people close to me have said similar things about how I empathize with people as to what is said of Taichi in the final chapter. What really freaked me out about that was that regarding his empathy and willingness to take a hit for other people, I felt the exact same way. So maybe Taichi and I are birds of a feather in that way. Nagase's backstory also bears some similarities to my life, though in a lesser way, and I think that to an extent, everyone can relate to her problem. The only real difference is the varying degrees that we all relate to her, and I think that it was very smart of Anda to write her like that. I really enjoyed Aoki, even if I can't really relate to him, but the way he was written, it kind of felt like I knew an Aoki somewhere in my life. He may be the butt of many jokes, but he's also not stupid. A lesser work would leave him at comic relief. For Kiriyama, I personally couldn't relate to her struggles, similar to how Taichi felt about her issue. Nonetheless, she's a similar case to Aoki in that I really feel like I know someone like her for some reason. And then there's Inaba, who I earlier said is best girl, and I stand by that. I will fight you. I'm warning you, I've taken boxing lessons. Inaba's issue is relatable to everyone and struck a chord with me because it touched on the horrors of the body swap, and at the same time the repercussions of sealing your emotions and not dealing with your problems. But the solution to her problem was a very simple one that people really should listen to. As stated earlier, Kokoro Connect says that your problems only seem big when you don't take into account that you're just a normal person in a world with billions of others. It's something many people need to hear. The whole setup of how Taichi realizes her issue and confronts her about it was really well executed in my opinion. Also, how he convinces her to face her issue, that part was really good, and I really appreciate how the chapter's end calls back to it. It's that full circle structure that makes the latter stories feel like their own stories. And as a whole, Hito Random is about random people facing their problems and coming together to fix themselves, or at least accept themselves. Kokoro Connect Book 1, Hito Random, was a book I read in the span of around 28 hours. That's insane for me, and I think it shows just how much I like Hito Random and how much it grabbed me, but more so, how much I love these dumbasses and their stupid fucking club. Can I just say that I am so glad I bought this book as well as the second one? Because if you think I'm going to wait, you're sorely mistaken. I need my dumbass friends and their bullshit antics immediately, or I will collapse from withdrawal. Kokoro Connect Book 1, Hito Random, gets an extremely high recommendation from me. Please buy it from your normal ebook storefront, and make sure it's the novels, which are about $7 each. I would sell my kidneys for a physical set of Kokoro Connect, even though it'll never happen, because it would be too good for this world. I just felt like putting that out there. Please read Kokoro Connect.